She wore an ID badge that said Nurse Dana Cole. Nothing about it was true. For 6 years, she carried a name that wasn't hers, in a hospital that didn't know what she used to be. She kept her head down. She spoke in short sentences and long silences. She made herself small on purpose. Nobody knew that Dana Cole had once carried a rifle instead of a chart. Nobody knew she had pulled men out of collapsed buildings with her bare hands. Nobody knew the tremor in her fingers wasn't nerves, it was memory. Then, on a Tuesday morning in October, a gurney crashed through the ER doors, and a voice on it whispered a call sign only 3 living people should have recognized. Everything was about to change. Before we go further, welcome to Silent Heroes, the channel where quiet people turn out to be the strongest ones in the room. If you're watching this from a city with a hospital in it, drop it in the comments. And if stories like this move you, hit subscribe, because the next one is already loading. Now back to Dana. Cedar Valley Medical Center sat on the edge of a mid-sized city, the kind of place with too few doctors and too many double shifts. Dana had chosen it for exactly that reason. Overworked hospitals didn't ask questions. Overworked hospitals just needed hands that worked fast and mouths that stayed shut. She was 34, though the lines around her eyes made people guess older. A thin scar ran along her left forearm, hidden under long sleeves even in summer. Her hands were steady in a way that unsettled some people, though they couldn't say why. She moved through hallways like she was scanning them, though she'd have denied it if you asked. She had learned the fastest way to survive was to make herself small, unremarkable, forgettable. A ghost in scrubs. The man who ran her ER was Captain. That was what everyone called him, though his real title was Chief Attending Physician Marcus Reyes. He liked the nickname. He liked authority more. Reyes had a habit of humiliating staff in front of patients, because it made him feel large. His favorite line, delivered with a thin smile, "Some of us went to medical school. The rest of you just follow instructions." He said it to Dana at least once a week. She never answered. Silence was armor. Only one person seemed to see past the armor. Old Mr. Higgins, a widower with a bad heart who'd been admitted 4 times that year, used to grab her wrist gently whenever she checked his vitals. "You're not what you're pretending to be," he told her once, eyes sharp despite his age. "I don't know what you are. But it isn't this." She never answered that either. But she remembered it. By 6:40 that Tuesday morning, the ER was quiet, the kind of quiet that never lasts. Then the doors burst open. Paramedics ran a gurney through at a dead sprint, shouting trauma callouts over each other. Gunshot wound, entry left chest, unresponsive, BP dropping. Reyes stepped forward immediately, chin up, voice booming orders that sounded confident and were almost entirely wrong. He called for a treatment protocol suited for a stable patient. This patient was not stable. This patient was dying in front of them. Dana saw it before anyone else did. The uneven rise of the chest. The distended neck veins. The falling blood pressure paired with muffled heart sounds. Textbook signs, screaming a diagnosis nobody else in the room seemed to register. Tension pneumothorax, maybe worse. Cardiac tamponade, blood filling the sac around the heart, crushing it from the outside. Minutes, not hours. She didn't say her old rank. She didn't say her old unit. She just stepped closer. Then the wounded man's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. His lips moved. A single word, barely audible over the chaos. "Reaper." The word hit the room like a detonation. Dana went still. Nobody else understood what it meant. Reyes certainly didn't. But Dana's whole body changed in that instant. Spine straightening, jaw tightening, the tremor in her fingers vanishing like it had never existed. "What did he just say to you?" Reyes demanded, stepping in front of her, blocking her path to the patient. "Do you know this man?" She didn't answer. She stepped around him instead. "I asked you a question, Nurse Cole." "He's dying," she said. Flat. "Certain. You're treating the wrong problem." The room froze. Nobody spoke to Reyes like that. Nobody without a medical degree challenged him in front of a dying patient, in front of witnesses, in front of the entire staff standing shoulder to shoulder along the trauma bay. But Dana wasn't looking at Reyes anymore. She was looking at the monitor, at the numbers falling, at a man whose name she hadn't heard spoken aloud in 6 years. She reached for a syringe, and a long needle meant for a procedure Reyes hadn't ordered. "Step back," she said, to the whole room, in a voice nobody there had ever heard her use. For the first time in 6 years, Dana Cole stopped hiding. The needle was thin, long, angled just below the ribs, aimed toward the left shoulder. This was pericardiocentesis, draining blood from the sac around the heart before that blood crushed the heart into silence. In cardiac tamponade, every second of delay tightens the grip. The pressure builds. The heart can't fill. It can't pump. Without relief, it stopped. Dana's hands did not shake as she found the landmark, angled the needle, and pushed forward with the calm of someone who had done this before, in far worse places than a clean, well-lit trauma bay. "You are not authorized," Reyes started. "Then authorize it," she said, without looking up. "Or watch him die." The monitor beeped. Blood, dark and thick, drew back into the syringe. Almost immediately, the numbers began to climb. Blood pressure rising. Heart rhythm steadying. A collective breath moved through the room like wind through grass. Reyes stood frozen, sidelined by his own hesitation, undermined in front of 6 witnesses who would all remember this exact moment for years. He recovered fast, the way small men do when they're embarrassed. "She's not even a doctor," he snapped at the room, at nobody, at everybody. "Someone document this. Unauthorized procedure. She's suspended, effective immediately." "No," Dana said. "I am just done hiding." A crowd had gathered by then, nurses, techs, even a janitor who'd stopped mid-task by the door. Nobody said a word in Reyes's defense. Old Mr. Higgins wheeled past on his way to a follow-up scan, watched the whole thing with a small, knowing nod, as if he'd expected this all along. 3 hours later, 2 men in dark suits walked into the ER and asked for someone named Cole. Not Dana Cole. Just Cole. Sergeant First Class Dana Whitfield, the older one said, loud enough for the hallway to hear. Combat medic, 2 tours, 1 silver star, 1 bronze star with valor. Credited with 14 confirmed field saves under direct fire. Missing from active monitoring for 6 years. Believed to be in witness protection following the Kestrel program collapse. Reyes went pale. "This is a mistake. She's a nurse. A nobody." "She was never a nobody," the officer said. "You just never asked." Reyes's authority evaporated in real time. Hospital administration, alerted within the hour, suspended him pending investigation, not for what happened that morning, but for what came out afterward. Because the wounded man on the gurney wasn't a stranger. He was Daniel Reyes, the captain's own brother, injured not in an accident, but during a botched cover-up of a fraudulent clinical trial Marcus Reyes had personally funded, forging patient data to inflate results and secure a research grant worth nearly $2 million. Daniel had found the falsified document. Marcus had panicked. What followed was violence dressed up as an accident. With the truth surfacing, Marcus made one last desperate move, grabbing a scalpel from a nearby tray, lunging toward the file cabinet where the real records were kept, trying to destroy the evidence before security could stop him. Dana intercepted him before he reached it, disarming him with the same controlled economy of motion she'd once used to clear rooms overseas, pinning his wrist until security took over. Back in the trauma bay, Daniel's condition spiked again. A secondary bleed, vitals crashing. BP 80 and falling. Heart rate 140. "We're losing the line." Dana's hands moved fast, her voice low and even. "Stay with me, Danny. Stay with me." He grabbed her wrist again, weaker this time. "You saved me once before. Different war. Didn't think you'd remember." "I remember everyone," she said. Her voice cracked just once. "I lost too many to forget any of them." Pressure's climbing. "He's stabilizing." We've got him. Got it, Dana said quietly. Not a triumphant line. Just true. Marcus Reyes was arrested within the week. Fraud, falsified research data, and assault charges layered on top of a career that quietly, permanently ended. The hospital board later renamed the Trauma Protocol Training Program after Sergeant Whitfield, formally, in a ceremony she almost skipped. She wasn't reinstated as Nurse Cole. She was promoted, under her real name, to lead a new emergency response training initiative, one that let her train combat medics and civilian nurses side by side, using both halves of who she was instead of burying one to protect the other. Old Mr. Higgins was there on her first day teaching, seated in the front row in a wheelchair, grinning like he'd known all along. "Told you," he said. "Wasn't what you were pretending to be." "No," Dana said, smiling for the first time in years. "I wasn't. Sometimes the quietest person in the room isn't hiding because they're weak. They're hiding because the world once asked too much of their strength, and never gave them a safe place to set it down. Real courage isn't the absence of fear or the absence of a past. It's choosing, finally, to stop hiding it." If this story hit you, hit like and subscribe to Silent Heroes so you never miss the next one. Tell us in the comments, what call sign do you think Dana carried before Reaper? Because the next story is already waiting. The end.